All right. Damon's going to introduce himself. Damon Davis is an amazing partner, as is all of our USARA folks and peer support and recovery supporters. So thank you all for being here. Thanks, Damon.
Thanks, Ashley. That was pretty cool. I didn't plan that, but it's nice to have fans in the room. Thanks, AH. Thanks, Savannah. Whereas, cheers. Let's take a second. I like what, he's not here anymore, but just, let's take a breath. It's been a long day and a half, huh? Feel your feet. Probably, my shoes. I think a little bit of mindfulness and a pause does helps me. I'm nervous every time but I'm not nervous about the topic. It's an important topic, and I want to talk to you guys about it. And I think I've been set up perfectly. I think Jared Hyatt talked at some length about person first language. And I think everybody here is probably, let's start there. I will introduce myself. I'm sorry, there's the nerves. But after I introduce myself, think about that. If you don't know what person first language is, I'm going to ask you to raise your hand. But I'm Damon Davis. And I'm still, I get to say still in recovery. I never thought it would happen. You guys honestly did. I was consigned to, I was ready to just spend the rest of my life in this role, however long it was. And I'm really pretty emotional today just because I saw price as my problem. I thought price was the issue because that's where all my problems started. And I contacted my family doctor, the one that gave me all my physicals as a kid, the one that saw me every single time I needed to go to the doctor. And the reason I did that is because I thought, this guy knows me. He knows the Damon from the past, the one that didn't go out into the world and become drug addicted. And so I thought that would be a safe place. And in my heart, I was always trying to be honest. One thing that you'll get wrong is if you think that people with substance use disorder are dishonest. They're not, because they don't realize it. You have to be aware. And my awareness was down there. I just wasn't aware of the way I was being deceptive and the way that I was portraying myself inaccurately. And so this doctor noticed on my Doppel report that he called it a train wreck. That's stigmatizing. So if my Doppel is a train wreck, what am I? And then he said, David, you're basically a drug addict. You should go to AA. And in my head, I was like, shame, stigma, my feet on fire, armpits started sweating. And like, I felt like, like a little kid on a playground that just got in trouble. That was hard for me to hear my family doc, the guy who knew me well, speak to me that way. And he didn't have anything else to say. He's like, I'm going to taper you off your benzos. Here's a 10-day supply. Don't come back. It's like, okay. So I did what anybody would do and went on to live a life in addiction and active use. And addiction is not a dirty word, but sometimes it gets associated and used related. So let's talk a little bit about stigma. And I think we probably covered that quite a bit. I know at this group, stigma is an important obstacle that we have to overcome. And I didn't know that I was self-stigmatizing. I didn't know that I had become the problem. Like, it wasn't every doctor. There's a good chance that had I gone to a different person or had someone, got taken a different route, things would have gone differently. So I'm not blaming the treatment world or the physicians or prescribing practices for any problems, but I self-stigmatize. And what this does, it just leads to me not getting the help that I need. You're welcome to review these slides, but let's talk a little bit about what person first language is. And I love Don Coyce. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Is it Coyce? Yeah, he's found it well, right? Yeah. Did somebody say it? Coyce. Yeah, great man. And I love this saying, and I'll probably cry a little bit if I read it out loud, but I'm going to. Words are important. If you want to care for something, you call it a flower. If you want to kill something, you call it a weed. And that's what I felt like. I felt like a weed sitting in my doctor's office. I wasn't. And I was actually a whole person sitting right there. I'm like the dark whole person that could or on person first language. And I like well person. Don't better. But this is the language that influences us and reflects our policies and our procedures. Different terms convey different meanings. I like the word convey because words don't have meaning by themselves. We carry meaning, right? I was carrying meaning, and the word hit me and activated my nervous system and reminded me the meaning that I was carrying was not good for me. I didn't see it. I just went and medicated the pain away. But there's no right or wrong. It's about what's effective in a setting. And I'm not a language policeman. I don't like to tell people how to speak or what to say, but I do like to raise their awareness. And if I hear something that makes my ears burn a little bit, I'm happy to stop. And then, Mercedes Morgan, she does it really well. And she'll say, would you be open to a moment, an opportunity to educate yourself? She does it in a very sweet way. I would probably be condescending if I said that. But I try to start a conversation. And I hope that if anybody here changes the way they do business, the way they treat their clientele, just looking at those opportunities. There are a lot. We have them all the time, and it takes courage. You have to be willing to put yourself out there. But just looking at some polling on recovery, looking in the recovery community, 88% of people believe it's very important for American public to see that thousands get well every year. It's important to us. We need to be seen. Like Dayton Davis doesn't need to be seen. The recovery community as a whole needs to be seen. And we're people. We're people. And person first language illustrates that because you always put the person first. So we know that we need to do some work on changing our attitudes. And we know that stigma is a problem. I'm here to tell you that person first language is a way that you can hold around the stigma. So I'm going to show you some recovery positive vocabulary. Anybody seen a list like this before? Probably some of you. But let's just go through it real quick. I'll read all of this for the sake of time, but I don't say substance abuse anymore. It's a substance use disorder. Drug choice. In recovery, there are lots of terms that in recovery meeting, you're going to hear it all just because of who we are and where we're at in our lives. And we're kind of in our own space. But words like relapse, that word's kind of gotten some it attached to it over the years, right? Because it just means if you're an asked person who hasn't had experience with substance use, what's a relapse? It's like, oh, they just went back to being the same person they always were before. You ever heard somebody say that, shake their finger at it? You're never going to change. You've never changed. And why would we stigmatize more heavily a person who does the thing that a person with a substance use disorder does? Why would we? We wouldn't. Why would you stigmatize a cancer patient who came out of remission and had to have cancer actively treated again? You wouldn't. And I want to make sure that everybody understands here. I made a lot of bad choices, but I took my first drink of alcohol when I was 11 years old, and I have an ACEs score of 7. So did I choose to become, and I'm saying this with air quotes, an alcoholic? No. I don't really like that word. It's an alcohol use disorder. And I've been to a lot of AA meetings. I don't particularly appreciate the label alcoholic because it often gets put on people who just like to have a drink and maybe say some things you don't like to hear, but make a person a sufferer from substance use disorder. The closest thing I can compare it to when I'm able to control my impulses is when I listen to people talk about what it's like to have obsessive compulsive disorder. Like, dude, I want this so bad. I want to change. I asked for help. I'm done praying. Like, I stopped praying because I got tired of feeling like nothing was going to change. That's on me. But what I'm saying is we get into a place where our thinking is broken. And so what I would ask is that you see the person first and not their disorder. The fact that I used to drink and use drugs is the least interesting thing about me. It really is. It's part of my story, and I'll never forget it. And I'll never stop telling people but it's contextual. I don't go around town, hey, I'm Damon, I have a substance use disorder. You know, but if I need to get someone's attention, I will. If I feel like it's going to be useful. And so that's what maybe ask yourself, is what I'm saying useful? How many long times? So this is a good visual. I like this one a lot. And you hear it a lot. And I do it sometimes too. I slip up. I was arranging my kidney on a temple one time, and somebody walked up and said, "Oh, you're OCD like me." So I'm like, wow. I hope nobody who's really suffering from that disorder heard you say that. Because if you thought it was as simple as being irritated because some candy wasn't arranged in the right patterns, then you've missed the mark. You really have. So we don't refer to people, we don't bring up their disorder. Damon, as a human being who happens to suffer from substance use disorder, but that's okay. So, so let's talk about mental health recovery, positive vocabulary as well. Mental illness. Maybe mental health condition would be better. A mental health condition, I think we all do. Suffer or afflicted by mental illness, person living with a mental health condition. Mental breakdown, reemergence of symptoms, a borderline, schizophrenic, anorexic. I can't even imagine what it's like to hear those words if you suffer from these disorders. So we say she's a person or he's a person that lives with these things. Cut or self-mutilate. Non-suicidal self-injury, self-harm. You know, in a clinical world, I'm sure that these are times they're very, it's out on the street, your private conversations that it tends to break down. We default back to those old things that we learned before we knew better, right? So we covered suicide. People are people. And the most respectful way of referring to people is as people. People are more than diagnosis, circumstance, or single aspect of their identity. So, again, these are some other suggestions for different ways that we can refer to ourselves or others. They are an addict. Anybody ever hear that? Anti's an addict. Do not all it. Folks. How often? It still happens quite a bit, right? Yeah, especially once it gets into the world of cyberspace or messages that can be just blasted out without record, right? Where there's no one there that can push back. A lot of things get said that shouldn't be said. The homeless. I had a person tell me a couple of days ago, so now I'm homeless. And I said, this is your opportunity, Dan. I'm like, all right, I'm going to do it. And I just walked up to him and I said, bro, you're not homeless. Your feet are on the same planet Earth as mine. Homelessness is it's a state of mind more than anything. It's belief. It's a false belief. No one's homeless. Housing insecure. Geez, I think we're all housing insecure these days. Feels like it with it's been going, but there are different ways that we can approach people. And I don't know if that person had heard what I said or even thought that I was trying to make a point. But the point I was trying to make is if someone cares about you, you're not homeless. We all believe in not borderline. So there's a study, there have been more than one, but in this study that's referenced, it basically just looked at the way a term can affect perception of people. And so they took clinicians and they just gave one set, a description of a substance use disorder sufferer, and then they gave another set, a description of a drug addict using very stigmatizing terminology. Then just the difference in those two things, those two words, drug addict versus person with a substance use disorder had a dramatic impact on perception. Well, our perceptions become reality, and that drives our decision making, right? Doctor's got to think on the spot. He walks in an office, he's got to look at a file, talk to a patient, and make a decision because he's got to go to the next person, right? He's got to do the best he can or she can in the moment. But they found that just by changing one word, the perceptions changed dramatically. And so just looking at this, substance abuse versus substance use disorder, these are the two things that changed. This is what they changed. They just manipulated these. And listen, look at I don't know if there's a statistician in the room, but look at the dramatic differences of this. For this, 67%. When you use the word substance abuse, what do you get? Say it. Punish them. They need to be punished and learn a lesson. Or use the word substance use disorder, the number drops dramatically. So going along, attribution blame, where are we going to place the blame? Well, it's a lot easier if a person's just a drug addict. Right? Thank you. I needed that. Awareness, right? And then attribution on things. Great. Same thing. Look at the difference there. It's like, hey, this guy's got a substance use disorder. It's not his fault. It's not his fault. Or if he's a substance abuser, then it's his fault. But then it wasn't my fault. My answer is no, it wasn't. My disorder, I believe honestly that I had a substance use disorder before I ever drank alcohol or took a drug, because it's related to anything you can put in your body, right? I can't tell you the number of days I went to school and all I ate was a candy bar. Sometimes I'd go to football practice afterwards. Yeah. Wouldn't that kind of set me up? Did I know it? Was I aware of it? Could I have made the systemic changes in my household to overcome that obstacle as a 10 or 11-year-old? And most of the people that I encounter in my professional work, it kind of sounds weird to say that, because I just think of myself as a person in recovery. But when I look at that, things change. Things change. And I can forgive myself. But there's always shame. There's a stigma. For me, I don't self-stigmatize. So, if it's problematic for the obvious reasons, then what can we do to change it? So, if we look at the person who is referred to as a substance abuser, they're less likely to benefit from treatment, more likely to benefit from punishment, more likely to be socially threatened, more likely to be blamed for their substance-related difficulties, and less likely that their problem was the result of an innate dysfunction over which they had no control. They're more able to control their substance use without help. So, if the person has a substance use disorder, these things change. So, as I said, I'm a person in long-term recovery, and my mental health, this process has really given me a lot of hope. I can't tell you how amazing yesterday was, you guys, to hear Taryn come up here and just recover out loud the way she does, and to see her just be honest and vulnerable too. Some real vulnerability, and to hear this message echoed is what we need. We need to recover out loud. That we need to put the face with the name and the statistic. We're all people. So what's not in the message? So it's some troublesome topics here. So if we say addict, alcoholic, or mental health condition, that's a troublesome thing. The reason is it conjures a negative image, or any word. Like if I go back to homeless, if if I tell you this is a homeless person, what do you picture? And like, there's a different stereotype, right, that goes with that. But if that homeless person is a person who has a substance use disorder, who was in an abusive relationship, is now raising her kids from her station wagon, is that up here? Each person? Well, no. It's not a homeless person. So, having a single definition of recovery is probably one that gives me the most grief. Because what does recovery look like? Audience participation, please. What does recovery look like? Sounds like me. Amen, brother.
You've done forever.
Good for you. Do else?
Different for
It's different for everyone. Yeah. So, I'm not here to tell you that the 12-step program is the way to get better if you have an alcohol use disorder. I'm not here to tell you that it's not the way. I'm here to tell you that I'm going to maintain a neutral ground, and I'm going to hold space for you and be here to advocate for you, to cheer for you, and to hopefully be your rear in recovery. If you decide to go a certain direction with medically assisted treatment, or there's some other modality that suits you. I did a recovery Dharma class, you guys. I'm not Buddhist, but I saw the value in it. And it led me to some amazing places. It really did. And I embraced that pathway to recovery. And USARA fully embraces the all pathways mindset. We really want people to feel empowered and to feel self-determined. Peer support is based in empowering people, teaching them to advocate for themselves, and to let them be self-determined. Because the last thing a person needs to hear is how you need to change. Now, have you ever gone to a friend that was maybe heavily drinking or using drugs or misusing drugs and said, I'm worried about your drug use? Anybody ever had to confront someone? What's the problem with what I just said? If I were to look at you and say, I'm worried about your drug use. It's confrontational. Well, it's confrontational. It's not person first. Because what's the emphasis on? Drug use. It's emphasis on the behavior that we all know is part of the symptomology of the problem. But alcohol was never my problem. It was my solution. And so when I'm looking at this, I really just try to come from a fresh set of eyes every time. Mercedes, I'm sorry. You're not, wait, you're Mercedes. Go ahead.
Well, those guys saying that actually it's a bit more about you instead of them. If I am worried about your something her there was no that you about to and kind of don't tell.
Right, probably. I just try to express my, and I agree with what you said. Thank you. I try to express as much concern for the person. You know, if one of my kids has a behavior that concerns me, I was kind of a rough parent because I was always focused on the behavior. You know, I care about my kids. We all do, right? And I wanted the best for them, but I didn't understand that conditioning from my youth kind of set me up to fail. And when we can take the emphasis off the person's behavior and just focus on their personhood and their personness, every single bit of it, and leave the labels out. There's no good or bad. There's no judgment here. We don't do that. We don't do that in meetings. If you start getting into somebody's space with your opinions and the way that you think they should live their recovery, you get pushed back immediately, especially in their own. Because honesty and vulnerability are the things that matter most in those realms. So I did a little experiment. I asked Emily, is she still here? Yes. Thanks, Emily. I'm going to call in just 1 second. I just want to make sure you didn't run off. Before I talk about our call to action, Emily, did you find the bat penny?
Don't have any.
Don't want me to show it to you yet? Okay. Before we started, I should have walked around the whole time. I'm really less nervous, but I asked Emily to look at these pennies
Today.
and asked her to find the bad one. Can you see the bad one? Anybody spot the bad penny? Did you find it, Emily?
So actually,
Didn't find it. Because there's not a bad pennies.
sometimes
They're all the same.
when
They're different years, different tarnish, but they're all pennies. And had I not asked you to look for the bad penny, she wouldn't have. She probably would have just looked at them and noticed the differences. So what I'm really saying with that is we find what we're looking for. And if you're looking for your opportunity to hold that space, to be compassionate, and to truly see the person first, then you've done most of the hard work. Because once you see the person, you cannot connect with the person. And I'm not sure that I do a great job of it all the time. I do my best. Sometimes my best is up here. Sometimes it's down here. But as a peer support, I have the luxury of just being able to say, hey, you know what, brother, I'm just like you. Like, you're helping me as much or as little as I'm helping you. We're here for each other. Everybody in this room is affected by substance use disorder. Everybody in this room has people they love and know and care about that need that connection. You guys, I don't even feel like this is real. For real. I'm not dissociating or having a panic attack or anything. I'm actually finally settling in and ready to do the presentation now that it's over.
that's what I think.
But if you could have seen me 5 years ago, I had 2 jobs. Get drugs and alcohol, and figure out how to get away from drugs and alcohol. 2 hemispheres in my brain, that's all they did is fight. They just fought with each other. That was my job. And, you know, eventually I found the right people, but it wasn't me. It was people. And I'm looking around the room, and I'm not going to make too much eye contact, but there are so many people. I've been looking around the room since I came in yesterday, and I'm like, how can this even be real? The number of people that I know by name that I've had real conversations with about my own recovery, and some of you don't even know that you've helped me just by doing the things that you did 10 years ago. Just by being and standing in that place and being ready to talk to the next person who walked through the door. It's unreal to me, you guys, and I'm really overwhelmed, to be honest. I'm surprised I made it to the end of the presentation, even though it's not the end. It feels like the hardest part is over, and I feel like this is my family. And I'm thankful. I'm really grateful for that. I'm grateful for this opportunity to talk about person first language. But I would just leave you with our call to action. If you found recovery, consider giving the community your story as an instrument of hope and healing. If you've been blessed by the resources that have helped you find and sustain recovery, then please join this fight.
Yep.
Help us expand resources. And we've got to do it for those who still suffer, man, because when I think about the number of people that are out there stuck in the place that I was 5 and 10 and 15, 20 years ago, it's scary. But we can do it. We can get to a better place. We got some references and resources here. I'm sure you're familiar with also what we got. I wanted to give whatever time we have left to questions, if anybody has any. Oh, sorry. Shelley, right?
Oh. So he said, so the choice, like once your drug choice is not acceptable, what would you say?
No, you're going to make me go back to the slide?
Well,
Sorry.
drug use.
Thanks, Marcy.
Tremor. Thank you.
Oh, I killed the presentation. Ashley, help. Ashley, help.
Thanks.
It's okay. Man, Marcy blurted it out. Thank you, OC. She's my boss, by the way. Best boss in the world. Thank you very much.
You did it. See?
With me.
Okay.
Oh, I believe it's right.
Creating stuff your song. No, one right before it.
For it. Drug choices. Sorry, because yeah, the reason is their choice After what I said, do you guys think I chose to be an alcoholic?
No.
So, it's a drug abuse. It's a tool. I used substances, and she was one of them. Not gonna lie, the daughters tease me all the time. I have to push back on them. But substances were the root of my disorder. And while we're being real, you guys, I was the problem. It was the things that needed to be fixed in me that I couldn't see in my thinking. There was no part of me that was broken. I just had some patterns and behaviors that I was unaware of, and I couldn't see what I couldn't see. Thank you.
Okay.